Welcome, everybody. So as Gail indicated, we've been in the ERP space for a long time, and it's a pleasure for me to be able to present to you guys today. So again, both the in-person and the remote audience. I've got about 50 minutes to kind of talk through some things, and as I do that, I'm going to start with just a quick overview of the organization. And let me just let this thing come up here. Come on. And everybody can see my screen, and we'll duplicate this. Come on. Cha-cha-cha. Come on, technology integrate. So quick facts, I've got a couple of slides on who we are to kind of give everybody perspective. And one of the things going on today is these are being recorded, so there's going to be a lot of other people consuming these resources. But as Gail indicated, I started the company in '94. So if you think about, the beginnings and how it's impacted who we are today, I'm one of those engineer comp sci guys that lived in a public accounting firm in the 80s. So if you think about what was out there from an accounting software standpoint, not a lot. People were still carrying around luggables. Those were the 50-pound laptops and so forth. So from the early days of ERP and CRM, we've been in the space. I started working with Great Plains Software, which is now Dynamics GP, mid-'80s. So a lot of continuity. We've watched these product families grow up. But today, again, full-service organization. We're regional, we're national, we're international. So I've been doing international for 20-plus years. Today, we have customers in 36 states, Canada, Mexico, Curacao, Western Europe. So again, Dutch is really number 2 on the client list. We do have both English and Spanish resources on staff. So, for Microsoft, again, after 24 years, we're gold level ERP. ERP is 90% of our business, which is huge. Dynamics CRM, integration, and again, hosting competencies and a number of other ones. Again, really is that surrounding the application. Again, it's hard to get those. Microsoft measures a lot to put you into those categories. And again, these slide decks will be distributed, so I'm not going to read everything word for word. Again, we have a comprehensive offering. Today, as Gail indicated, you're going to hear about 3 different product lines. Dynamics GP, Dynamics AX, now branded as Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, and really Dynamics NAV, today branded as Dynamics Business Central. So, there we go. Industry experience, we do a lot of manufacturing. I am in different industries there. If you think about process, you think about discrete, you think about ag, you think about metals, medical devices, animal production, feed production, a lot of diversity in what people make and how they use these tools. We're in food. If you're from St. Louis, we've got the guys that are making salamis and prosciutto using the tool. We've got people making coffee. So again, just the diversity of processes that we support, and then certainly distribution, professional services through a lot of industries. And that really speaks to the flexibility of solutions we represent. Fun facts, we're a 50-plus person organization based in St. Charles. We're in Missouri Research Park, our facilities there. Service the way you want it, on-site, remote, web, telephone, email-based. We've got a hands-on lab in our offices. We provide proactive engagement services. We want to be an adjunct to your team on a long-term basis. We do user groups. We run newsletters. We don't premium. We run a Tier 3 hosting facility. So a lot of details about us that kind of support the organization. From a service standpoint, it's probably what you imagine, but really it's end-to-end. Everything from that pre-project scoping and analysis, solution modeling, project management, all the way through implementations, conversions, licensing services, maintenance. It's really that full life. Again, we like to own customers for life. That's a great way to put it. And but even as we have these conversations with organizations, this is a flash demo. It'll be fast today. Where do we go after that? There's pre-project analysis. There's scoping. There's proof of concepts. There's fit gap. Those are all things that happen before we have any type of a contract or engagement with you. So just know that we really expect that to begin the process. Today, interactive. I got about 50 minutes. I talk fast. Don't hesitate to say, hey, can you show me a little more of that? Or what about this? Or what about that? I've got a live demo on my laptop. I've got some PowerPoint slides we'll click through, but I like to do live demos. So if there's something you want to see, don't hesitate to poke. So let's talk about Dynamics GP. I indicated I've been around that thing forever. Positioned as a mid-market ERP software. ERP, enterprise resource planning, it goes deep. We'll talk about feature functionality. This was formerly called Great Plains Software. It's been around a long time. February '93 was the initial release of Dynamics GP 1.0. Prior to that, it was Great Plains Accounting Software, which was a DOS-based application. That's where I actually began. So I saw this thing from 1.0. But it was one of the early ones for Windows and multi-user. Microsoft acquired the product with Solomon 2001 for $1.3 billion. Was rebranded Dynamics GP. roughly 50,000 companies, not users, but companies running on this in the U.S. So it has got a large installed base. The product version I'm showing today is GP 2018. It was released last year. It's the 15th full release. What does that mean? 2-year cycles, 30, 25 years? It's rich. It's mature. You're going to see a lot of that going on in this solution. Most people say, oh, it's old. That's not relevant. You think about robustness, and again, I think you're going to understand the value prop based on some of the things I'll show. Still today, how do you buy it? I can buy Cal licensing. I can own that thing. I can put it on my servers. I can put it in a private or a public cloud, and I pay software assurance. Or we do SaaS. So we've got a lot of choices here. So I want to do subscription via Microsoft hosting providers in a Microsoft partner-hosted scenario. This is not a public cloud application. Microsoft will not put this on their platform and say, we're running multi-tenant GP like they are the other products we're going to talk about today. Tiers, full client, web client. Again, there's a complete web experience on this. The market, people say, no, it's dead product. That's not true. We continue to sell this. We continue to service it with 50,000 companies out there. We have a number of billion-dollar companies running GP in our organization on our client list. Tiered licensing, full license, limited self-service. So again, they've got that experience that everybody needs to get the people the access. We talk about a large ISV community. I'm not going to show ISVs today, but I'll reference them. Those are industry software vendors. They exist for every product. NAV has been around for 15 plus years. AX has been around for 15 plus years. Those products came from Europe. There's people that have built fit gap solutions. GP, EDI, e-commerce, credit cards, this is all plug-in functionality. You don't go out there and build it. First thing you say is, what's available? And there is so much cool stuff. I've got clients that do containers and, I've got a module for container loading. I can load volumetrically or by weight, but if you're doing procurement, as opposed to doing an Excel sheet, we move that function to the ERP, but that's an example where we go to a very deep piece of functionality for the solution. So just some imagery, and again, I did that because I'm going to distribute this, but, this web client, and I'm not going to spend any time on that today, but it's HTML5. It supports iOS, Android, Windows OS. As I'm a solutioner, and so I've got a group that, hey, we need a sales rep experience. Do we build a configurator in CRM, or do we extend a web client where the rep can do order entry on a tablet and drive through a configurator? I'll show you what that behavior looks like, but great solution, low footprint. CRM, we love that idea later, but again, if you think about what comes right out of the box, there's a lot of that functionality. This is right out of the box. Typically, we deploy GP. You get a remote desktop server and an IIS. So am I doing web or full? It really depends on what you give your users. Okay. The web client also services the self-service community. I've got all these employees. I'm going to give them a little bitty license. Whether I do SaaS at $10 a month or buy it at $60 one time, but they get apps, whether they're requisition apps or self-service apps or time and expense, but their experience is a little bitty web app, and that's it. They don't get anything else. It's a small footprint, but it's through this experience. This is a busy slide, and I'm going to talk a little more granularly, but it's included, and this is the functionality that comes with the license, and I think that's a big deal is what do we get out of the box? Everything in orange is in the starter pack. There's options. The extended pack, most people add that on. In the SaaS model, it's like $10 a month per user. Typically, it's in there, but this opens up manufacturing. We'll talk about some of these features. So as I kind of give you the fast talk on these, because I do want to demo, financial modules, there's a ton of stuff. So if you think about that age of the product, Microsoft has put that in there. And what they've done is the architectural strategy is you get a vendor that builds something and gets a lot of customers using it. And in the past, Microsoft bought those ISVs and now they OEM them. Now there's other stuff you buy directly from the ISVs, but the popular stuff has actually evolved the core solution substantially. So again, GP's architecture composed of dictionaries. Things you're looking for, general ledger, budgeting, fixed assets, bank rec, receivables and payables, those are all there. But electronic banking, national accounts, intercompany, this is a multi-entity application. Again, refund checks, field level security, a lot of these things that allow us to configure the system and then manage by exception. So big list, certainly don't want to talk through all of them in the essence of looking at this thing. BI is a big thing too, and this is a pretty good stack from Microsoft. And so as you think about, wow, which one do I use? Back to user experience. You're going to hear a lot about that today as we think about, well, what user experience does this person get? Well, depending on what's their role, what do they need? What kind of a license do I want to buy them? And so, document viewer, management reporter is a financial reporting tool. I can build them, but then I got consumers. Those are peripheral users. Analysis cubes is a full-blown data warehouse. They ship this thing out of the box with 6 cubes. Financial, purchasing, sales, inventory, project. That's live pivot tables against your data. Dashboarding. So again, Analysis Cube is very powerful. It leverages SQL Server analysis services, SQL Server integration services. This is a SQL Server application, so it's very robust from that standpoint. We talk about Excel reports. There's 200 of them that ship. Again, I can sit in Excel and interact with the data. I don't log into GP. Smart List Designer, again, it's a BI tool. It allows us to have these lists of information that are composed views, and I can drill through them and they're actionable. So again, I can compose my own, get different versions. Office 365, plugged in. Power BI, plugged in. A lot of this stuff right out of the box. We just connect it, set up the security, and away we go. SQL Server Reports Pack. So again, large stack of BI. Flash screen, Power BI, okay? You're going to hear about it from everybody. Power BI is in every solution, so we're not doing a Power BI demo, but as you can imagine, you do anything you want with this data. And back to the user experience. Am I in GP looking at Power BI, or am I one of these guys that I'm the guy on the beach with my phone looking at the performance of the company, and I don't have to call anybody or do anything, and I can drill down if I want? That's my experience as a CEO. But again, I need the dashboards close to me if I'm a worker bee. But again, I can expose these to customers. You want to give a customer a dashboard? I can expose this to a customer, tighten it up, and he's looking at his world. I can do it to my vendor, showing him that his shipping performance is subpar compared to other vendors in the organization. So a lot of ideas on these external types of capabilities. Doc attach. Again, you're going to hear about that. I'm sure we've got it in all the systems here, but I think understanding it's a light doc management. It encapsulates. It allows, it supports workflow, expedites approvals. Again, we can get at it through the web client, which means I don't have shares and I don't have folders, and I can get at these documents anytime, anywhere, and I think that's a big part of the positioning on any solution you're looking at. So, Management Reporter, I'm not going to do a full demo of this, but this financial reporting tool has been around a long time, and it allows you to compose a variety of different reports. And what you're seeing here is out of the box. Microsoft's delivering a bunch of templates. We take a chart of accounts and we categorize it into sales and expenses and employee costs, and guess what? All the financial statements work. So P&L, balance sheet, but concept, they're building blocks, rows, columns, and trees. I can do anything I want. This is how I have 5 companies. I build a tree, and I consolidate entities using this tool. Now, also this exhibit is I'm consolidating departments. But moreover, I can articulate this reporting tree, and I can assign security at the node. Why is that important? Because I don't want to produce a report for you, and one for you, and one for you. What I do is I create a financial. It's got a tree. You log in. Part of the tree disappears. He sees the whole tree. You see part of the tree. I can move up the tree, down the tree, depending on, do I want to see a financial for sales? Do I want to go overall? So again, very interactive, supports a viewer. It's a pretty slick tool. Again, drill down. Click, 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 click. I can go from summary to detail to more detail. If I've got a license, the next pop, I'm inside GP, and I can drill all the way back to the source documents. So again, not going to demo this live, but great tool. Business Analyzer, this is one where if I just jump off for a second, this is part of the collection. Am I in GP? Nope. But one of the reasons this is important is the relevance of the business intelligence that comes with the solution. This particular product, I've got a lot of things that I can do here. It's like, okay, what role, this is in my way here. What role am I? Oh, I can change roles from a CFO to accounting manager to a sales manager, and guess what? They get different content. Oh, that's it. I got some charts, and I can interact with these, and I can drill around, but not as much flexibility as a guy like the CFO. Let's go back to the CFO for a second and look at his experience. And he's got different information he's looking at. But again, if we look at the charts and what he can do and drill down, and maybe he wants to look at a product line in this and change the way the chart is, this is all Microsoft stuff. But understand it. Out of the box, it's all plugged in. So this is the stuff that a lot of people are looking for. They don't want to build it. Now, if I cruise to the right here, KPIs, key performance indicators, there's collections of these throughout the systems. We're still building these dashboards. But this is the financial statement I just talked about in Management Reporter. I'm a consumer. I got an app. What do I want to look at? There's operational performance, financial data. It's all right here in a very tidy place. Okay, so that's Business Analyzer. Slick little application here. Let's continue what we're doing here. Get through the presentation, and I'll go all live demo for you guys. Come on, chug, chug, chug. So as you think about robustness of this, we talked about all those financial applications, supply chain. And out of the box, everything a distributor needs to run this system. Sales order processing and advanced invoicing. This is really the collection hub. I'll show you this, but whether I got e-commerce orders coming in, CRM orders coming in, I got people pounding things in. There's a lot of ways to have EDI. It all dumps into here. And then workflow and business process. What are the types of orders? Are they ready to go? Do they come in with a process hold that requires somebody to review them and release them and move them through? And am I doing allocations? I can have different workflow paths for different types of orders. At the end of the day, we're moving them through a fulfill, a pick, pack, ship, invoice type of model, and a lot of flexibility in there. We talk about pricing. I got simple pricing. I've got complex pricing. I can do price books, sheets, multipliers. So as we look at pricing sophistication, we can handle a lot of different stuff. Certainly we expect an inventory module that allows us to define who do I buy from, how do I buy, stocking locations, stock count attributes, replenishment attributes, a lot of stuff going on there. Purchasing, receivings, everything you'd expect as you're trying to run a business in terms of what do I need to buy, how much to buy. The PO generator will actually generate invoices. Landed cost is one of these modules that helps us articulate expenses with bringing in inventory product. Steady and hitting expense, it gets capitalized. So again, not everybody needs all these, but and then certainly requisitions. And that's a light experience. If I had 100 locations, I give everybody a web license and they can do a rec, workflow approvals, PO, receipt, and so forth. So slick capability. So there's a look at sales order processing. Like I said, we'll dive into that a little more deeply in a second here. And here's a look at a requisition. Again, you think about that, it's workflow. It's about where do we start the process. And this has been a very well-accepted application. And again, as they've moved it into a web-based experience for that self-service user, we see a lot of good. Payroll, human resources. So again, in the past, this was not included, but with HCA and ACA compliance, Microsoft just put it in there. And so everybody gets an unlimited HR and payroll application, whether you use it or not. Some people outsource payroll, but even in this context, if I'm manufacturing, I need to set up my workers. Those are employees. I'm going to put my workers in there. How much cost do I put on those workers? I've got a place to maintain. What do I pay them hourly and overtime? And the more detail I have, the more accurate my costing is when I'm collecting data from a worker against a manufacturing process or against a project or somewhere else. So maybe we just want to light up expense reports in the system here, but I got to have my workers in there. Some people go further. They run full payroll. We've got a deal right now. They run about 8,000 W-2s a year out of this. I think the statistic is 17 million people get paid out of GP Payroll a year. So there's a lot of adoption in GP Payroll, and there's more capability than this. So if you think about everything you need to e-file, multi-state, believe me, it goes from simple to very complex. It's a nice add. Recruiting applications, if you think about applicants and collaboration, again, as we get in and look at some of these things, I think that's a big deal. Web-facing applicant self-entry, we can hang that off of there. Hey, I want people to be able to go in and code a resume where it's validated against the values here so that when it lands, nobody's keying them in. Well, again, I can search a database. Hey, let's go query our database of applicants and find somebody that's got SQL Server, how many years of skills, and it'll look at employees and candidates. So again, powerful tools. A lot of organizations don't use that. I think as we get into the payroll and HR, it's about collecting all this data. It's about getting out of spreadsheets. Now, phase one may not be there. Phase two, we own it. How do we use it? That's one of those big things that we push as we look at these systems. Configuration development, there's a lot of things that are included in that base license. Modifier with VBA, hey, I want to add fields, I want to remove fields, I want to customize, I've got an integration tool that supports my conversions for 6 months. Service-based architecture, identity management, these things are all baked in. Workflow, professional tools library, there's like 30 tools in there. Hey, I want to renumber my chart of accounts. I want to renumber my customers, my items. They let you manage your system. And there's more. There's more advanced integration tools. There's more advanced development tools and so forth. Screenshot of workflow. This is big stuff. People do workflow today by handing things or sending disconnected emails. This creates a structured environment to set up a business process where you're managing by exception. It knows that you're on vacation. It's going to go to him. And in this particular one, it knows it's $1,000 more than your limit, so it's got to get 2 signatures. So a lot of behaviors that can happen behind the scenes to route data through an organization, and that's a step up for a lot of companies. They're not using workflow. Extended pack, this again opens up more distribution, it opens up the manufacturing, okay? Again, not everybody uses it. It's not a big option, but and then there's a project ledger, and then there's more service. So a lot of features in the extended pack. And we'll get into this. I'm just including these. Slide demo, perfect. I used to tell people once, I said, I only have 140 PowerPoint slides. And they're like, oh my gosh. So, we talked a little bit about Business Analyzer. We talk about just the UI and look and feel. So this is the GP full client experience. Very configurable, which means I can come in here and I can change it. What do I want to see? Oh, I want to go in and change my to-do list. I'm going to go in here and update my reminders. And the importance of reminders is you think about actionable BI. You know, right on my desktop, I've got a stack of work to do. And so we're trying to tune this homepage experience so that I'm putting you on work. I'm prompting you. This thing refreshes. There may not be something here today, but now there is an hour later. Oh, okay. So again, as we're moving information through the business, I want to surface the work you have to do. You'll see similar types of characteristics in these other systems as well. But what I'm emphasizing is the degree of personalization that's available here. How do I want it to look? You see my time management app is on here, my requisitions. Maybe that's not my job. Let's take that off. You know, maybe I want to come in here and add reports. You know, and then I'm in here browsing through the catalog of the hundreds and hundreds of things that Microsoft ships with us. And I'm trying to put them one click right there so I can be the best at doing my job. Again, GP reports, Excel reports. I'm not going to get into all that. So again, homepage experience, navigation, menus are persistent. These have been here for 25 years. Cards go back to the concept of a Rolodex. So I can always find, hey, there's my customer master. I always know where it's at. That's been something they've been consistent through versions. So users don't, where do they put that? Area pages, this is just another, you get that Outlook-ish look where they present all the menu options in a single click. So there's my customer option again. I can go through the menus, I can go through here. And the other thing that comes up is there's other ways to experience this data. You know, this particular view is a navigation list, and it'll look like, well, that was Office 2007 when they added the ribbons. They did the same thing in this system. Why? Process, left to right. So GP is all about inherent baked-in workflow, okay? You're not going to come in and say, well, we do it like this. Well, GP does it like this. You need to kind of adapt to GP. But these ribbons, they're configurable. You're the shipping guy. I need a few other things. I need a few less things. Now your ribbon flows from left to right. And when you come in here and you start, again, I'm on a customer master, but when you select a record, oh, options become available. Whether I'm looking at customers, whether I'm down here looking at sales orders, and I want to say, well, let me go look at sales orders. Think about it as workloads. How do I manage a workload? And again, you're a lot of experiences that we can configure here, but this is the one where now am I looking at orders? I can have favorites. I can pick an order. Oh, you know what? I can just dive right into that. So the user can dive through and into transactions and get actually pretty efficient in moving around and actually completing work. Again, all navigation contextually. Reporting, report lists, a lot of stuff in here. The last navigation one, BI. And again, I want to talk about Excel. I talked about Excel lists. As you think about this list of data, and I go back to GP for a second, and I'm going to go up here and open up the Smart List. The Smart List really empowers the reminders on the home page. And, you know, this has been here for a number of years, and my talk to people used to be, remember we had to call IT? I need a report. 3 months later, somebody gets what they want. Well, the Smart List really allows us, and I'm looking at account summary and say, well, you know, let's just double click on here, and can I come in here and search and say, how about if I get the year is equal to, I don't know, let's see what data is in here. Let's get 2021, for example. Let's see if there's any data in here. Did I pick a bad one? I picked a bad one. Let's try 2023. Live demo, right? Anything can happen. So we made a view, and oh, great. I'm going to make this a favorite and say this is 2023 fiscal year. Great. Now, who's it belong to? The system, company, a group of users, or me? Is it a favorite or a reminder? Well, it really is not actionable, but let's just make a favorite, and so my 2023 fiscal year is there. Let's go back to Excel. It's the exact same data, and I've connected to the SQL view, and so here I am going to do the same thing here, a little different, but I'm interacting, and we're sharing the same data, but I'm not in GP. So whether I take an Excel experience and whether I'm looking at accounts, sales line items, and I can pivot this data. And this is one where I just took a sales line item and said, well, show me everything that's posted. Well, maybe you want to see what's not posted. Well, let's flip it. Let's look at what's not posted. And this is one of those, who's selling what to my customers, right? So I've got reps, I got the customer, and I got the products. We can throw products out. We can just look at what reps are selling to what customers. We can look at multiple years. Maybe I don't want all these years in here. Again, let's go back and let's just grab, you know, I don't know, data all over the place. Like 2020, let's grab these three. Not much there, huh? Okay. So again, a couple of different ways to interact with GP data. Just had to get that one checkbox there. All right. So smart lists, we talked about that. Let's go back to the home page for a second and just punctuate this example. And so now I'm back to my home page. And again, this is my job. I've got work. So I click on my stack of work. Here's the smart list. We talk about actionable. just that. I'm reviewing credit limits. Okay, well, here's a guy. Here's one that looks pretty easy. Let's go take a look at this one. We'll drill into the customer master. And this is a look at the maintenance window. And so one thing I'll just talk about is all the windows are consistent in Microsoft. Menus are standard, required fields, hyperlinks, lookups, doc attach. Again, this is where every window, it's got a notepad. I'm able to come out here and attach multiple documents, and just that simple. You know, there's my PDF for Dynamics GP, and that's it. I can attach that to the customer. That's visible anywhere in the system I see that link. But again, we were here to fix the credit limit. What do I need to know about this guy? Well, let's come and sit over here and actionable. I've got go-tos. Well, let's go look at his payment summary. Again, there's a collections module we can plug in. We see 52 days to pay, highest balance 45,000. Okay. Again, there could be a bigger process here, but we'll simplify the example. Let's come in here. Let's change his credit limit to 50,000. But if he goes over, 60 days by as much as $1, I want to get a credit warning on the guy. So as long as he pays current, I'm good with that. But again, this is my example. I've updated this. I update this. We do a little refresh, and I have less work to do. Eventually, that queue falls off my homepage because I've completed my work. This was a credit limit example. It's applicable to anything in the system, okay, whether I'm shipping sales orders that are supposed to ship today and so forth. So let's go through a couple of process scenarios. And the one that's close to heart, and I've got about 25 minutes, is I talk about sales transaction entry. And, this is a jump-off point to a lot of things. And, as we think about, business process, and required fields, and, just if I jump off again, order types. I can have lots of order types. Why? Different process. What's a special order? Maybe that's tied to a PO to a vendor. It's a drop ship. Maybe I have a web order. Maybe I have what's an RMA order? I'm fixing something. Why is that important to know it's an RMA order? Don't screw it up again. So these document types are visible. People know there's different behaviors. There's different comments that can show up on there. We're sorry we screwed up your order the first time, whatever you want to do. But again, a lot of workflow and even process holds. So again, you're defining and configuring to manage those processes. So let's tab through this. Let's see if I can not fat finger this. Document numbers are assigned. Let's see. I'm just using one of my old demos. This is a customer I set up. You can do a lot of things on the fly. Hey, new ship to. Now, can I open the window? Only if I have security. GP is pessimistic. State sensitive, it's pessimistic. Can't open that window if I don't have rights to open that window. So I can lock this thing down. I have field level security. I can hide a field. I can write protect it. I can have it ask for a password, so I can manage this thing without having to sit there and watch people. Maybe I don't want to set up a new ship to address. Okay. Let's just do a lookup. Control L. I don't have to use a mouse to find things. Batches. Let's add a CA batch. Let's cancel that. And so header of the order. A lot of hidden stuff here. On the customer, a lot of details. So I want to go back and look at his payment history. Hey, by the way, while I've got you on the phone, I want to make sure if I had collections in here, I can jump into my collections module, would be showing up here as well. So there's a lot I can do as a sales order operator. So one of my examples is I want to jump in and do a configured order. So this is an item that I manufacture, and I just want to show you an experience, and this is one that I showed, and I'm going to back order this because I want to make it. And it dropped at a price of $4. But this one is a little different because I was demonstrating a configurator. And what that means is the rep can come in here and put in an order, but there's more information I need to complete the order. And this was a simple example for a manufacturer that's letting a customer pick a blend. Hey, I need some of this, some of that, and it's a one-off blend. Whereas opposed to I'm manufacturing from a standard bill of material. But the configurator experience is nice because it's a standard module. And really, as you think about, what am I doing here? And, if I'm going to create a configuration for these guys. And the neat thing about it is if you watch the behavior is I've got a couple of different option groups. And this is like the Dell configurator. Hey, I need some of that, and I want to get, 50 of these, and let's get that one, and I want to get 100 of these, and let's get this one in there, and I want 25 of that. And you see what's happening. It's pricing this guy as I go. Now, do I need any of these options? I'm going to get this one in there, and I'm going to put in, 15 gallons of that, for example. Okay, price the whole order, save it, drops it back. And what's in here is a single line item. I got one of those, but it's essentially what? It's 300-400 gallons, and it's going to create a manufacturing order that has the configured recipe that someone can fulfill, and it's linked to this document. And just as I've done that, I can add purchase products, and maybe I want 10,000 of those, and I don't have any of those. Well, let's just back order this, And let's say those are $1, and I don't know why it didn't price. But you might say, you know what, I'm going to go and put the PO out there for that one, or I'm going to drop ship it. And then I can generate a PO. So I got one coming to manufacturing. I got one I'm generating a PO. You know, what's missing here? There's no vendor assigned to this product. I come in here and grab a vendor. It may scream at me and ask me to set up some more windows. No. So now I've got that. We've lit this up. It knows what the product is. It knows where's my cost. We'll get some cost in here. So, okay, we can generate this. So a little different. We'll take the errors. But so this document now linked to a PO, and it's a drop ship, which means it's going to the customer. I could just as easily bring it back into stock and ship it out of my warehouse. So again, I support all those scenarios. But again, in this example where I want to make something, I want to configure it, I want to sell a purchase part, maybe I want to buy it, maybe I sell from stock, maybe I drop ship it. Again, all those processes are supported. So sales order entry, very strong component. And again, if you think about back to process, you know, what happens next? Sorry about that. Fat fingers here. We typically do what? We print a picking ticket, we generate a packing slip, we kick it out to the warehouse. Again, a lot of different options on workflow and document types. Maybe I just want to see what these look like. A picking ticket, let's just print that guy. And templates, Microsoft uses Word docs in here. So everything is customizable using Microsoft Word. Imagine just a very robust mail merge. Here's my configured items. Remember this one, I'm making a certain blend that's going out to the shop. Here's the blend. It's telling me, okay, here's a customer. I got 15 gallons of this, 50, 50, 100. That's a configured item, basically. And then it's all back ordered, so sends it to production. So sales orders, okay. Again, quote to cash. So I start with quotes. Quotes turn into orders. Orders go through a process. They eventually turn into invoices. So depending on my process, I could go in there and allocate inventory, confirm that it's picked. It automatically turns to an invoice as I go through the shipping process. We have other ones where, oh, I want to do an order. I want to move it to a back order, and I want to do some different steps. Everybody's different on how to do distribution. Again, out of the box, we support all those processes. Okay. And it even keeps track. So let's do a purchasing example. And so I kind of flashed the requisition window, and I think as you think about a rec, you know, recs aren't typically used for replenishment of inventory. However, if in the capital example or in office supplies, a rec works great where I don't want an email. I don't want somebody to come, hey, can you buy a laptop? Let's start a process. Let's document it. Let's capture it. Let's workflow it. Let's make sure the right people see it, approve it. I've got an audit of that. We turn it into a PO. There's actually budget checking that can occur here. So if you think about encumbrance, not everybody has that budget discipline, but if we have the budget discipline, I need a laptop. Sorry, you don't have budget. So we catch that right there as opposed to 60 days later where we see the P&L and say, how did we go over budget? So again, these are disciplines that it's about process, okay? And, you know, as you look at, again, GP has all these baked in understandings of how do I move information from, you know, from quote to cash or procure to pay. And the goal of this system is for people to support those processes and adapt to them, and there's a lower cost footprint here. As you think about purchase order entry, and again, just looks, again, there is a lot of data that we could set up on this. One of the things you'll see here is I have attributes for project in here. So purchasing, what am I buying? Is it a capital item? Is it a project-based PO? And so if I expand the line item, you can see, okay, maybe we're driving that to fixed assets. Maybe it's going to inventory. Maybe it's going to a project. Maybe it's going to supplies. So a lot of different paths of possibilities. You see the capital. We see defaults. These things flow from the setup of the inventory items in the system. Here's a landed cost group. These are configurations that is just that, configure. You know, I'm jumping back to the item. We go back to the item. We take a look at a site record. And here's where I actually tell it, there's a landed cost group. Well, because two warehouses, different cost to get it there. Where's it coming from? China, taxes, duties, and so forth. So again, that's kind of how that configuration goes. And then even as we look a little deeper on this item record, here's the replenishment capabilities. We support a lot of different models, lot for lot, fixed order quantities, PO gen, economic order quantity, different items, different locations. How do I decide how much to buy? Okay, we can get very sophisticated in here. Manufacturing, how do we decide how much to make? Are there batch sizes? Are there constraints? We always make at least 100, okay? Is there an increment of 100? So again, we can get very complex in that configuration. So we've talked a lot about supply chain. Everybody's like, what about finance? Let's just jump back to finance for a second. A lot to say about GP. Typically my demos, again, 55 minutes, I can hardly get started, can hardly get warmed up. But as you think about the pieces that I really emphasize, is we started with BI and the analytics and the user experiences. We see the diversity there. But as we think about financial structure, it's a hub. GP is a great hub. We've had clients where we integrated 40 SAP installs into GP. GP was the global hub. Multi-currency. Okay, so again, as we're in here, I'm international. I support all the different currencies. Again, we can have different ledgers, but there's some strength in even the chart of account structure. We configure that. We define what's it look like. I can have 10 segments, 66 characters. It's a little different than my two other products here. So, you know, I ran my business on GP for 15 years. I now been on AX for 3+, and dimensional accounting. GP has dimensional accounting, but the chart structure is a little different than what you'll see in some of these systems in terms of dimensions. In terms of visibility and drill down, multi-org, enterprise level security, it's all baked in here, which means I can say you can only see Department 100. You only see that portion of the chart of accounts. So I can really secure this even on a database in an enterprise setting. Let's just punctuate a little drill down. So this system does keep an unlimited number of years, both open and closed. And again, drill down. Anywhere there's a hyperlink, I can drill down. I can grab a journal entry, drill down. All the source documents have prefixes. So this audit IDs of the system is impeccable. Drill down, I'm at the cash receipts journal. Let's go look at the invoices that are paid. Let's drill back to the invoice. Here we are back into sales order processing. You know, I could click a button and fire off and email this thing again to the customer if I wanted, or I could reprint the invoice. I can keep going. Let's drill down even further. So the data is connected from end to end. Whether I'm external in the report writer, that last click takes me into the system and I can keep drilling. So this is very helpful as you're validating the system, is how did that hit this GL account? I can drill all the way back and figure out, oh, let's correct that. We want it to hit here. So again, great continuity, great integrity, as you can see from that drill through. One thing that differentiates statistical accounts. So as you think about other financial aspects, unit accounts, these are non-financial. What do you put in there? Number of workers, square footage by department. Why? Because I can drive allocations through those types of formulas. Or, as I've done for others, I have a group that made shoes. Let's put the number of pairs of shoes they manufactured in a month on the P&L and come up with a P&L per pair of shoes. I used to joke that the women would be like, seriously, they make that much profit on one pair of shoes? But unit accounts let us drive a lot of value. Statistical data, we like to get them together. We have medical professionals using this, and we get the number of visits by physician in the system so they can run analytics and present all that data consolidated on the financial statements. A lot of other things in the financial system. One thing that we do want to show, everybody wants to see, what's a journal entry look like? And this is the GJ window right here. Copy and paste from Excel, fully supported, okay? We've got integration tools that'll import data. We can copy and paste. I don't care if it's 10 line items or 1,000 line items. These things will support 10,000 line items on a GJ, so you can have pretty big transactions. You can paste that right in there. Full intercompany support. Again, as you think about GP's architecture, different databases are created. If I had multiple databases in here, I can pick between multiple entities and debit and credit and have it do all the balancing entries as well, whether that's from GL or from accounts payable. So I'm not really coming up short there. Okay. In financials, fixed assets is baked in here. This is a supported application, fully compliant by Microsoft. So again, a lot of people don't bring that in phase one, but eventually you want that in there. If you've got assets, there's service, there's maintenance. Again, you can wrap all that together in GP as well as you get into that. Okay, tick, tick, tick. A couple more flash screens here. Bill of materials. Again, if you are in manufacturing, very important to understand is we can configure very complex. We go, I don't even know how many levels deep, 999 levels deep. So MRP is included. It'll drill through those in terms of what am I making, what do I need to buy, what do I need to produce. From a costing standpoint, we're developing not just component details of what do I consume and how's that costed, and do I backflush it or do I physically issue it so that I can look at variance on material. We have all those options. And as you get into labor, we're defining routings. Okay, and as you get into routings, I can do simple or complex. I can have setup labor. I can have runtime labor. I can have machine. And we have that ability to define all of these behind there. So from a costing standpoint, I can do full standard costing in the system, 9 cost levels. And I can drive those into contra accounts and really, really manage micro variance at the MO level, as opposed to I can do macro level variance analysis as well. So there's really no shortcomings there. We're defining work centers. Within work centers, we're defining capacities. There's a capacity planning module in here too. We want to look at work center loading. How well do we want to manage our process? A lot of people are still flying by the seat of their pants, but there's a crawl, walk, run approach to implementing this solution as well. But just from a confidence, it goes deep. Where I yield on this is complex process manufacturing. GP doesn't have that baked in. But I've got batching examples in here where, I had somebody say, well, how would I do this? And, what's a standard mix going to look like? And, you saw me do a configured example, and this is a static example. And, this is how I had to implement process where they're like 20%, 20%, 25%, 25%. Scale to a gallon. I still remember when I did Volpe's, I said, I make a 1,500 pounds of salami. I go, can we make a 1 pound stick? And then scale it. It was kind of funny as you're looking at configuring a recipe, but this is essentially what you're getting at. So, unmentioned. We talked about HR and payroll project. So I ran this project ledger I ran on the system for 15 years. So as you think about contracts to projects down to cost categories, okay? So professional services, again, there's some other project modules we have for this that are more geared towards construction, but this is a very robust project subledger. Again, we can get the costing down. We can even come in here and say, what's my revenue spread over time? I can do retainers. I can do revenue recognition. So again, as you think about a project ledger, and then there's time and expense apps for workers. So how do we need a project? Is it a capital project? Is it a time and material project? Is it a fixed price project? Again, I think it bears consideration. How much time do I have? 10 minutes? I normally run over. So as we think about, again, just the overall perspective of GP and everything included, and I'm running all standard stuff in here. You see field service. Again, I'm back to configuration. I log in as a user that doesn't have rights. All this stuff can disappear. Maybe that's my job, is all about inventory and manufacturing. And so we tune up our experience based on how we're doing our job and what we should have here. Let's see, did I have any other pieces? So in the last 5 minutes, what didn't I show that somebody in here said, I really wish I could have seen that? Is there any of that? You guys manufacture. Kathy, you manufacture as well, don't you? Or you're primarily buy and distribute? Okay. Industry that you're in? Supplies. So pure distribution? Okay. Anybody else? What are you guys in? Consulting, professional services? So the project ledger would be appropriate to you guys. Okay, so I've touched on some of the core pieces around most of that stuff. So let's see what else I haven't showed you. So let's go back to a couple of other standard areas that most people like to see that we always skip in demos. Let's go back to procurement. Accounts payable. And that's a fun one because everybody's like, all right, let's say I don't do POs, and not everybody has a PO discipline. So as you look at the purchasing transactions, this is the standard AP transaction flow that we'll just tab through and do an AP transaction. Batch centric. So I got a CG demo batch. Well, why is it important to do batches? I configure properties on batches. Batches can be routed for approvals. They can be single use. They can be recurring use. That's common in GL as well. I've got control totals. I can have formal approvals. And from that standpoint, I can add my transactions. I can have different users with different batches. This is autocomplete. Shows up. It's configurable. There's user preferences we set. As we do document, it scans. It knows about duplicates, whether they're posted or unposted. So it's keeping us out of trouble. Let's see if 1000C. POs, again, this is just an AP. This is not connected to a PO module. Knows about 1099s, okay? Why is that weird? Let's drill back on the vendor for a second. And so again, hyperlinks take me back to the vendor. We go take a look at options on this guy. He's not a 1099 vendor. Okay, well, I have full 1099 support. And again, in terms of printing those, we can e-file 1099s depending on what our volume is. There's other attributes that we can set at the vendor level as well. Other things that live down here, you see the notes, you see the doc attach. I can attach their W-9s. I'm using classes to group customers, vendors, items. Why is that important? I get all those common attributes. They're also able to drive reporting. Defaults, big stuff. Full tax capability throughout the system, okay, both domestic and international. So I can do taxes on taxes. I can do GST. I can get as sophisticated or as simple as I want. Again, some of these other links in here, internet profiles throughout the system, across all the different major categories. Who do I email? Who do I CC? Who do I BCC? If we're using portals, we embed logins and credentials in here. On the item side, if I'm doing e-commerce, a couple flags, the items show up on a website in the integrated model. So again, that's pretty tight. Email aware and EFT. So if we go back to this address block, EFT is configured here. So e-banking is built in, pretty straightforward process. It supports all the standard notches, but this is how I turn on EFT for a vendor. It's a very easy process. I can attach this to multiple banks, different configurations. And alongside of that is, what am I going to email? On the AP side, I can email them a PO or a remittance advice. So again, if I'm paying you electronically, I certainly don't want to print a remittance and put it in an envelope and mail it. Kind of defeats the purpose. So configuring the vendor, what do I mail? Personalization. I've got the ability to have custom message IDs by vendor, by document. So again, the degree of personalization can go to the nth degree. So again, this is all using Word forms and standard email service connectors that are out there for Exchange. Okay, so we were in AP, we just jumped off. Again, just finishing the transaction. This is the distribution of the general ledger. I can put some more notes in here. Okay, if it was intercompany, I could pick between companies and distribute that expense. And that one's done. Compound in another AP real quick. Knows that vendor. Let's do this 1000D. And maybe this time I want to cut a check because somebody's standing there saying, hey, I need a check right now. How fast can I get a check? Or maybe I'm recording a non-AP check. Okay. But just that simple. I can come in here. I can generate a check. Again, security. Got to have security do all these things. So don't think that this thing is wide open. But just that fast, I can turn around and generate a check. Pre-printed check. If I got MICR in here, again, I could lay down ink on an embossed document and have it signed and MICRed if that's the way I want to do it. But that's a very simple process. And now audit, well, let me delete that. Distributions have been changed to expense and cash, as we'd expect. Okay. Again, these all flow into the banking module, so it's pretty much an end-to-end process in terms of that and control. So that's what a standard process looks like in AP. And then as we get in here, you think about build a payment batch, edit the batch, edit the payments, print the payments, post the payments, generate remittance, generate EFTs. It's a really top-down workflow. But this build payment batch has a search and selection engine in here, and you think about, how easy can the process be? And again, crawl, walk, run. A lot of people are just trying to get control of some of these key processes. And again, I'll come in here and pick my checkbook, and so I'm building a batch, and how do I do it? Do I have a template? Maybe I want to come in here and filter. The best one is discount. Hey, when am I doing checks again? Give everybody that's due by next Thursday. I could pay one vendor. I could pay one invoice. I can do all that. I can build a batch. I can add to the batch. I can go in and tweak them and tune them. I can take non-qualifying discounts for one guy, but not everybody else. So again, a lot of flexibility in building this. And at the end of the day, I got to route it for approval. Someone's got to look at it, approve it, edit it, and then we can generate the checks out the door. So that's an example of chasing AP through that process as well. I've got 4 minutes. Again, I could keep talking here. So any questions before I have to turn this over to anybody else? Again, this is a flash overview. So there's a couple of different job cost options, and so we talk about projects and so forth, but in the subcontractor respect, typically what we've done is we use POs to subcontractors attached. Now, if you're looking for lien waivers and some of that functionality, we've got a couple of different job costing options. We have one that drives more towards DCAA contractor compliance if you're doing government, rich, web client, workflow, but again, that goes a lot deeper in contractor management and even lien waivers and even them having a worker concept, whether they're employees or contractors, so they can do their time and drive it through. We also have a construction-based job costing application as well that goes even deeper into AIA billing. And so depending on where the requirements go, there's a couple of different twists. And likewise on manufacturing. I said I don't have standard process, but I have a process module I can add in. A lot of people are like, is that standard? Is it third party? Third party, they're transparent. I have third-party apps in here that you can't even tell they're here, probably. This one is one right here. What is this one? I bolted this guy in. We were doing a project for a large food manufacturer here in St. Louis, and this is a special pricing app. Why? But again, to the point is they blend right in when we add them, so you think it looks just like everything else. So I won't demo that, but it's pretty slick too. But good question. And again, I look forward to some follow-up questions or challenges. Like I said, we've got a bunch of people online, but I've used my time, so I will give myself the hook. Thank you, everybody.